Hey, what's up, people? Piz out here, and continuing my series, The 13 Days of Friday the 13th. Today I'm going to talk to you guys about Friday the 13th, the final chapter, released in 1984. And I think it's really befitting the fact that the film was released in 1984, as 1984 was sort of the end of the golden age of the slasher film, which, of course, Friday the 13th helped create and helped, continue throughout from 1980 to 1984 with Friday the 13th, Friday the 13th Part 2, Friday the 13th Part 3, and they sort of capped it, I think, here with Friday the 13th Part 4, the final chapter. And it's also befitting because in many fans' minds, Friday the 13th Part 4 is not only the best Friday the 13th film, but it is arguably a perfect slasher film. And Friday the 13th Part 4 picks up directly after the events of Friday the 13th Part 3. Jason has got an axe wedged in his forehead. He is taken to the local morgue, where, of course, he does not stay very long. He finds himself back stalking Camp Crystal Lake. He discovers the Jarvis family is living on the lake, and a group of kids are renting a house across from the Jarvis family. Havoc ensues, Friday the 13th style. And if you guys didn't see the Sausage Factory episode in which we celebrated the 30th anniversary of the release of Friday the 13th, the final chapter, by doing a live commentary over the film with Peter Bracke, author of Crystal Lake Memories, I'll put a link to that in the description below. That was a lot of fun to do. Definitely check that out. But for me, Friday the 13th Part 4, the final chapter, is hands down the best film in the Friday the 13th series, and it is, I do feel, arguably just a perfect slasher movie. I've talked about the slasher movie prerequisite, which is just sort of a list of things that I look for in any slasher movie that elevates it beyond just, the run-of-the-mill stalk and slash kind of slasher movie. And Friday the 13th Part 4 nails just about all those. We have great characters, great memorable characters. The Jarvis family, the addition of the Jarvis family in the film, I think, added a whole new level to the film, added an additional depth to the film that we didn't really see in any of the other Friday the 13th films. That family element I really enjoyed. I love the character Tommy Jarvis, played by Corey Feldman. He's one of the most beloved and endearing characters in the Friday the 13th series. I think just in horror movies in general. He's the only character in Friday the 13th history that has sort of, his character went on from Part 4 to Part 5 to Part 6. So you have this sort of Tommy Jarvis sort of character arc between 4, 5, and 6, which is very, very interesting. The kids who are vacationing across from the Jarvis home. You've got Crispin Glover is part of that crew. So I mean, right then and there, you've got Crispin Glover, who's going to be a memorable character no matter what. You've got Teddy, which the actor's name escapes me at this point. You've got the twins. You've got great, memorable characters there. The dialogue, I think, is really strong. The writer, Barney Cohen, said that, he focused more on the characters and on their dialogue as opposed to, creating outlandish, just really brutal kills in the film. Because if you create likable, characters that feel real and are likable, it doesn't matter what you do to them, it's going to be horrifying. So, and that's, I totally agree with that. I think he definitely pulled that off with Friday the 13th, the final chapter. The kills that we do get are phenomenal. Tom Savini came back for Part 4. He did not want to be associated with Part 2. He was asked, but when he heard that Jason was going to be the killer, he just thought that was ridiculous. However, when they gave him the opportunity to kill Jason off in the final chapter, he, of course, jumped at that opportunity. He felt like he had created Jason in the original, and here was the opportunity to lay him to rest. And the kills in the film are great practical makeup effects, really, really top-notch stuff there. The film just looks fantastic. I think the production value is very, very high on this film. You can tell that, this movie actually had a pretty decent sized budget. Whenever I watch the film, the first thing that I'm struck by from literally the moment go, when you're, at the barn where Part 3 ended, there's policemen everywhere. There's EMTs everywhere. There's a helicopter in the sky. I'm like, whoa, this movie had a budget. The movie looks great. The plotting is great. I think, unlike Steve Miner and unlike Sean Cunningham, Joseph Zito, the director, really set out to make a really good film instead of just, get her done, get her out there, and let's make a buck. You know, he really took his time and he wanted to make the best possible film, and that definitely shows on screen. I love Jason as portrayed by Ted White. Ted White in interviews said, you know, he wanted to portray Jason differently than he had seen in the previous two films. He wanted Jason to have this urgency, as if Jason himself knew this was the final chapter. And I think that comes through in the film. Of course, you know, you have, you know, lovely females in the film in various stages of undress, which is sort of a slasher movie prerequisite as well. So, I mean, I just go down that list with Friday the 13th Part 4, and it nails just about all of them. So, I mean, I do think it is, you know, pretty much a perfect slasher movie, and I do think it is the best Friday the 13th film out of the series. It just does everything, and it does everything really well. It added that additional element with the family element, which, like I said, is great. You know, their relationship I really liked. I really thought felt genuine. The addition of Mrs. Jarvis. I mean, you really didn't have, you know, you had adult characters in the film, but they weren't really integral to the film. She is in Friday 4. I love, you know, Kim Beck's character, the Tommy's sister. I love, you know, Rob Dyer's character, who's out in the woods sort of hunting Jason. His sister was killed in Friday the 13th Part 2, so now he's out sort of hunting Jason. You know, all of these elements were just really, really well done and really, really well written. And the acting is great. And just everything about the film, I think, is great. I love Friday the 13th Part 4. I could sit here and talk about it for probably a whole other hour. But definitely go over, check out the Sausage Factory episode where we did a live commentary for Friday 4 with Peter Bracke, author of Crystal Lake Memories, to celebrate the 30th anniversary of its release. Again, I'll put a link to that in the description. And yeah, just let me know what you guys think of Friday the 13th Part 4. Is there a Friday the 13th sequel that you think is better than Part 4? Oh, my power just went out and then came back on. Uh-oh. Does that... I think that might mean Jason's here. I think I better wrap this video up and bolt the doors, because possibly Jason's here. So anyway, until next time, when I bring you guys my thoughts on Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning. You guys take it easy. Peace.